This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for September 16th, 6 p.m. We have two very critical situations going on in the Atlantic Basin right now. We have a strengthening Hurricane Karl in the southern Bay of Campeche heading in the general direction of Veracruz, Mexico, which is our current feature at Hurricane City. And we have Hurricane Igor, major hurricane, heading in the general direction of Bermuda. Now this graphic that you're looking at right here is from Hurricane Fabian back on September 2nd, 2003. This was 72 hours roughly before the hurricane actually hit Bermuda as a major hurricane. This was the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center. This is the graphic 72 hours before Hurricane Fabian hit Bermuda, and notice the distance that the projected forecast was from Bermuda, as it was expected to pass over 100 miles to the west of Bermuda. Well, that didn't happen. It hit directly on Bermuda, and this is a warning to the residents in Bermuda that you cannot pay attention to forecast tracks. Right now the official forecast takes us very near the island, but it could veer off to the right or to the left by about 100 miles or so, going out about 72 hours. But nevertheless, it looks like you're going to be experiencing at the very least Category 2 wind gusts, and there may be stronger effects from this if it makes a direct hit on the island. Now, this graphic was created 72 hours before Fabian made landfall, and at the time it had a 30 nautical mile eye, and the winds were 120 knots at the surface. The GFDS, the GFDL, and the UK Met and the NOGAPS model all predicted that this was going to hit the island of Bermuda, but the National Hurricane Center used a left bias to the models and forecast us to go a little bit further away from Bermuda than what those models were indicating. Again, they called for this to pass about 100 miles west of Bermuda, and the forecasters were Franklin and Manelli down at the National Hurricane Center. And of course the LBAR did horrible with Hurricane Fabian, and that was way off on the forecast track. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next graphic. And this is actually the point of landfall from Hurricane Fabian. This is on September 5th at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Winds 120 miles an hour, belted the island of Bermuda. We did the hurricane warning show at Hurricane City covering Hurricane Bermuda. We had the Hurricane Watch Net and media from the affected areas. We had a couple of people on the telephone, some of our observers. By the way, if you're listening to this update from Bermuda, we'd love to hear from you. Jim at hurricanecity.com. And especially if you're a Skype user, we'd love to hear from you in the island of Bermuda. But again, keep in mind the National Hurricane Center forecast track had this way over here rather than where it actually ended up hitting. Alright, here's the forecast for Igor now. And Igor is forecast to pass directly over the island of Bermuda. Here's the island of Bermuda right here. So they're easily inside the core of major hurricane force winds. This is going to be about a Category 3, borderline Category 2 and 3 as it comes into Bermuda. And this would be at 10 p.m. at night on Sunday night. And again, this can veer off 100 miles, could come in 100 miles off like this, or it could come 100 miles to the west. In fact, a few models are trending a little bit further west, so maybe this will pass west of the island, which is not really good because the worst conditions are on the right front quadrant. These winds in here are going to be the highest winds on the right front quadrant. And this, again, this would happen at 10 o'clock at night, and the conditions would deteriorate throughout the day on Sunday. Now, here are the models that predicted the Fabian track the best. This is the GFDL model, and the National Hurricane Center said that this is one of the best performers on Hurricane Fabian. This takes it right over the island of Bermuda, and if you zoom in on it, you can see it takes it directly over the island of Bermuda. It gets it around Cat 1, Cat 2 status. The next image is the UK Met. This also did very good with Hurricane Fabian back in 2003. This has it going just east of Bermuda. Next image is the AVNO, same as the GFS. Operational model of the aviation is showing this very close to Bermuda on the left side of Bermuda and heading off to the northeast very quickly. Now here is the current position of Igor right here. Now here's the track that Fabian took. Fabian was a little bit south of where Igor is right now, and Fabian quickly headed off to the north-northwest and then north and passed right over the island of Bermuda and then recurved out into the Atlantic. So already Fabian is over here, so if we extrapolated the forecast for these two systems, which you can't really do. But this would take it well over 100 miles away from Bermuda, which would be good news. But you can't pay attention to past tracks. That was the track that Fabian took, and let's hope that this Igor takes a similar track. It would be good news for the people in Bermuda. All right, here's the only other storm that was in the same exact position as Igor is in at the same exact time of the year between September 15th and the 17th. It was an unnamed storm. They didn't name storms back in the 1800s. This was 1876, a very weak tropical storm passed well east of Bermuda. All right, here's what the models were indicating back on September 12th. This was several days, 4 days ago. And it looks like the best performing models, based on where it is right now, is of course, the official forecast was pretty much on. The UK Met and the NOGAPs here have done pretty well on the current, predicting it would be inside this red circle right around this time. The outlier here is the GFDL model way up in here. It's not anywhere close to that. And the BAMS and the GFS model is a little bit north of where they thought it would be at this point. So the best performance so far, UK Met, NOGAPs is doing okay. Canadian was a little bit south of where it is right now. And here are the current model runs on the system. And again, Bermuda is right here underneath this pack of models. They're all tightly clustered over the island of Bermuda, and this is why, in 72-hour forecasts are very good. They're only off by about 100 miles or so. So people in Bermuda really need to be battening down the hatches right now and getting ready for a direct hurricane impact. And let's hope it just goes to the east or to the west. It'd be nice if it took this path here, like the NOGAPs is indicating, way out in here. But that's looking doubtful. It looks like it's going to pass directly over the island or maybe just east of Bermuda. All right, let's take a look at the Karl wind speed probability. I'm sorry, the Igor wind speed probabilities. The best performer on the intensity for the models on Igor is the GFNI model, which has this right around 110 miles an hour over the island of Bermuda in about 72 hours. So that's the best performer right now, and I think that's what we're going to have as a strong Category 2 hurricane. And maybe we'll get lucky and it'll weaken a little bit more and become a Cat 1 before it affects the island of Bermuda. But because there is going to be some shear up that way. We'll have to see about that. All right, we have another system out there, Karl. This is a very dangerous situation. We have a strengthening hurricane. There's an eye-like feature showing up on this on satellite right now. And here's our current position of Hurricane Karl right here. And here's where Karl's going to be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The tropical storm force winds are going to be approaching on Veracruz, Mexico, and the core of the hurricane is supposed to come in just north of Veracruz, but the models are trending a little bit south, so Veracruz could easily take a direct impact from a major hurricane. This could get up to major hurricane status. In fact, if we look at the models on Karl from tropicalatlantic.com, you can see, especially in the early late cycle models rather, and the early cycle models, that we have within 24 hours. Some of these actually take this up near Category 3, and that's the ship model here. Takes it up to 98 knots at landfall. So that is a distinct possibility. We could have a major hurricane. And when you have a very small eye like what's showing up on this hurricane right now, you could easily have rapid intensification, and we could have that dreaded pinhole eye hurricane developing and heading into Veracruz. This could be a disastrous situation. I can't warn the people enough in Veracruz to batten down the hatches. This is going to be a very bad situation. A hurricane coming in there strengthening. The winds mix down to the surface much better in a strengthening hurricane. And this is a very large populated area. In fact, Veracruz, last time they were affected was 2005 on October 2nd. Hurricane Stan came in 80 miles to the south and still killed about 160 people in Guatemala to the south of there and southeast of there. But I'll tell you what, this is a large populated area. Around 7 million people live in the Veracruz area, and they have about 99 people per square mile living in this area. So it's a densely populated area, and they're going to have some problems. They have a lot of shipping that goes on there. They have sugarcane, coffee, fruit, vegetables, beans, fishing is big industry there. So this is all going to be potentially wiped out by Hurricane Karl. Let's just hope this thing gets inland quickly before it affects Veracruz. We have an observer, John Todd, down there that gives us a lot of information. I'm going to talk about the broadcast schedule in just a minute. Here's the hurricane hunters. They're flying around down right now in the Bay of Campeche, and we're seeing winds here out of the north at around 80 miles an hour. And east of the center of circulation, we're also seeing winds around 80 miles an hour. So this is a rapidly strengthening hurricane, and we have yet to see a vortex message on this, but I would assume we're going to see dropping pressure and a rapidly developing hurricane down here. This is not a good situation at all. All right, let's take a look at the models on Karl. Again, tightly clustered into Veracruz, just north of Veracruz. The official forecast and the BAMs and the GFS take it right in there. The outliers of the Canadian and the UK Met take it a little bit further north up near Tampico, but that's looking unlikely at this hour. It's going to be heading closer to Veracruz. And again, you can use the close-up picture page. Click on Veracruz, Mexico next to the tracking map at Hurricane City, and you can pull up all the local information from Veracruz. There's no live webcams there right now. If anybody knows of any, email me, jim@hurricanecity.com. I don't think there's any webcams there, but we do have pictures of the area. In fact, I'll show you one here in just a minute. Here is a current radar shot of the eye of Hurricane Karl coming into the view here. Here it is right here. And here is Veracruz right there. And so this eye is coming right in. And boy, this is going to be a bad situation going into tomorrow. Luckily, this is going to hit during the daylight hours, though. Here's a picture of Veracruz. Pretty big city here. Again, it's roughly millions of people living in this area. So there's going to be a lot of people affected. We could see a very high death toll from this. This is a very grave concern. Here's another beach shot of Veracruz. Again, all these areas are going to have surge coming into them. It's going to be a very bad situation come tomorrow. Let's just hope this thing gets inland quickly. All right, let's take a look at the water vapor loop of our three systems out here. We have Hurricane Karl in the Bay of Campeche. We have Hurricane Igor hitting the general direction of Bermuda, and we have Hurricane Julia out here in the East Atlantic. We've had a lot of questions, people wanting to know, how are these two systems going to interact? Well, we have Julia heading like this, and we have Igor that's going to be very near Bermuda and then heading on out. Are the two systems going to combine? Well, what happened is they'll probably do the Fujiwara thing, which is Julia would pass around Igor rather. Oh boy, there's so many systems out there. And then it would wrap in behind it, and they would head out into the open Atlantic. That'd be most likely the scenario that would unfold with this, but it wouldn't make it any stronger or anything. Luckily, this is not going to hit the Canadian Maritimes. As of this point, they're expecting this to pass into the North Atlantic. Here is Hurricane Karl, generally heading towards Veracruz. High pressure to the north, staring it in there. All I can say is batten down the hatches in Veracruz and in Bermuda. Here's our broadcast schedule. For tomorrow, this is going to make landfall in Mexico near Veracruz. My work schedule will not permit me to broadcast this storm unless I get back soon enough. Maybe it'll be a delayed landfall, but Bill will take over from Virginia Beach. He'll show some live TV from the area, radars, cams, and stuff like that. We'll try to get as much up on the screen as we can. Again, it all schedule permitting for both of us. Bermuda, I do plan on covering the landfall for Bermuda, full coverage of the hurricane warning show, and that'll begin on Sunday night. We may even do a pre-hurricane warning show on Saturday night. Okay, that's it for now. Keep track of both of these systems. If you live in these areas, be prepared for hurricane conditions. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.